So one of the questions I get asked a lot when I put out videos is what are my crew skills and what are my equipment loadouts, because I usually don't talk about that unless I'm actually doing a review. But for all those little ace tankers or other videos I put out, I don't cover that. And I thought I would bring your attention back to a site I've mentioned on the channel before, but it is VBAddict.net. Now, what you can see here is just under statistics and data. You can do it via tank, but the Crusader 5.5-inch SP, that's a video, an ace tanker I'm going to be bringing to the channel later, but I'm bringing you two videos today because I know how hated Arty is by a lot of people out there. And to be honest, the video is already made. I just need to release it, but it's not a very interesting game. It's not a very interesting tank. It's very, very boring, and the video was quite long. The game lasted almost 15 minutes, so you know, I'm bringing you out a second video today, you know, just to make up for the fact that the other video isn't that interesting or that, you know, good, let's just say. But I thought I'd mention VBAddict again and just use the subject of the tank I'm going to be using later. So this is the statistics and data for the Crusader 5.5-inch SP. You can use this for any tank, it doesn't have to be Arty, but you've got the basic information averages here, which I don't really use, I'm not interested in, but I am asked what are my crew layouts, what skills do I have on my crews, and you can do this for any tank in here, and it's broken down by average, the average player base in World of Tanks, and the unicums. And this is the one that's interesting. So when you're asking about crew skills, you can go into VBAddict, you could check up whatever tank you want to learn about, and you could check out crew. And what this does is it basically tells you what the most frequent skills used on the crews for that tank by unicums are. So you could see that camo is the #1 thing on artillery for the Crusader 5.5-inch SP. That would be different on another tank, but unicums tend to use camo. They also use brothers in arms, so that's the other interesting thing. You know, for me, Sixth Sense is very, very important on Arty, but yet most unicums will go for brothers in arms over Sixth Sense. So they'll go for camo, brothers in arms, and then the rest of it is broken down between repairs, Sixth Sense, and snapshot. So those would be the choices for maybe a third skill. Personally, on all Arty, I go for camo, brothers in arms if I can, and Sixth Sense. You know, that's how I've got all my Arty set up, but there are other options, and you can see that other unicums, they'll go for not other unicums, but unicums, players who are a hell of a lot better than I am, will go for camo, they go for brothers in arms, and then, you know, the next skill seems to be a choice. So it's really up to you as to what you prefer. Now, you can also do this with consumables. What consumables are they using? So most unicums are just using a small repair kit, a small first aid kit, and a manual fire extinguisher. So they don't go for anything major, although on all Arty what I usually do is I go for premium consumables, because essentially it makes the Arty so much better than it, you know, does on pretty much other tanks. I find that premium consumables on Arty make a much bigger impact, at least on my gameplay, than it does when I use them in other tanks. So you know, again, these are my choices. I would normally go for a small repair kit, small first aid kit, and then, you know, whatever the premium consumable is. But again, you can see that most unicums tend to go for small repair kit, small first aid kit, and just a manual fire extinguisher. They don't seem to put a lot of money into their Arty, which I do with Pudding and Tea, because to be honest, using Pudding and Tea on my Crusader SP meant I had a lot of games where I failed to make credits and made losses, but just to get through Arty that much quicker and less painlessly, I do it. But essentially you could see what the best players on the servers are using as consumables, and you can also do it for equipment. So, you know, pretty much every unicum is using a medium caliber artillery shell rammer on their particular Crusader SP. They're also using enhanced gun lane drive, and they're also using a camo net. So there doesn't seem to be any debate here. This is what they're using, full stop, and this is probably what you should be using if you want to get the best out of a tank. But you can do this for any tank. So again, we've got a Type 62 here. We can check out what the unicums are using as crew skills. We got camo, brothers in arms, and then the third skill seems to be split between repair, Sixth Sense, snapshot, even situational awareness, and smooth ride. So it seems to be based, you know, you go for the two most common ones, Camo and Brothers in Arms, and then the next one is your choice. Again, on the light tanks, I normally go for 6 cents. Consumables, again, you can see small repair kit, small first aid kit, and automatic fire extinguisher are the 3 main consumables used by Unicums when they're playing the Type 62. We've got equipment, again, coated optics, medium caliber gun rammer are the 2 most important choices, and then, surprisingly, improved vents class 1. So that's my setup on my Type 62, and again, I did that before checking it. So again, there is an argument that you could also use Vert Stabs Mark 1 here, or even Binox and a Camo Net if you're going to be setting it up for passive scouting. So you can do it for pretty much any tank, and VBAddict.net will give you the information. So whenever you pop into a new tank, and you're wondering how you should set up the consumables, how you should set up your crew skills, how you should set up your equipment, this is an invaluable site. It is very, very good, and I've been using it a lot more and more recently as I'm starting to drive new tanks, and I'm wondering, before I've driven a tank for the first time, what's the best way to set it up? I pop in here, so I thought I'd basically give VBAddict a mention again, because I've been asked a few times recently, what are my crew skills, what are my equipment loadout, what consumables am I using? I use VBAddict, and it helps me set up a tank correctly from the day one. I mean, I don't put on equipment and then decide to take off equipment. It saves me gold, it saves me credits. I can pretty much set up a tank like most of the players have it set up, or most of the best players have it set up from my very first game. So that's what I use VBAddict for. I thought you guys might be interested. Let's get on with today's video. Hi folks, and welcome to an Ace Tanker for the KV-5, one of the many Tier 8 premium Soviet Russian heavy tanks. In fact, last time I counted there were 9 of them. But anyway, after the recent FV-4202 Ace, which was a tank I very, very rarely played, but I popped into it because of a ×5 event, I remembered this game. This is a game I played quite a while ago, but this is another tank that I very, very rarely play, but I decided to pop into it for a game because of another ×5 event. Now, as I didn't really cover the history of the KV-5 on its original Ace, I decided to make a video for this one and bring it to you again, and also because it's a bonus video. I'm going to bring out 2 videos today, but I'm giving you a little bit of forewarning that the other video happens to be RT, and I know a lot of you guys don't like RT replay. So anyway, the original video for today was an RT replay, but I decided to put this one together as a bonus, just to make up for that fact. Anyhow, the KV-5's history, or the Object 225, which was its production name, the history begins in March 1941 when Soviet intelligence basically reported on just rumors of new German heavy tanks that were in development. Now, these new German heavy tanks were supposedly in the 90-ton range. They were armed with 105mm guns, and the information provided there wasn't a lot of information. It was mainly based on rumors. Now, some of that information did cover the Tiger tanks that were being developed, but most of the information was rumors. No plans, no photographs, no project names. But wherever there's smoke, there's fire. And after the war, and it wasn't until after the war, it was discovered that maybe the Soviet intelligence that was presented in March 1941 may have been referring to the Löwe, of which one of the variants used a 105mm gun, and the Löwes were all in the 90-ton range. But, that was only discovered after the war. Now, initially, when the intelligence was originally presented, it was just rumor, as I say, nothing concrete, but yet it was enough for the Soviet Union to take the threat seriously, and a program began to develop heavy tanks beyond the KV-1 and the KV-2 that were being produced at the time. So just a month later, in April, development began in the KV-220, which was to be the testbed for the KV-3. Development also began on the T-150, and development began on the KV-4 and KV-5. Factories were in such a rush to develop new heavy tanks based on this Soviet intelligence that several factories held competitions for designers or workers to submit their plans for the best designs for a new Russian heavy tank, and the winning designs would receive monetary prizes. Now, the KV-3, KV-4 and KV-5 all resulted from these contests, along with designs for other heavy tanks such as the KV-4 Kreslovsky. That is a Tier 8 Clan Wars reward tank in-game, but anyhow, each of these tanks had their own individual histories, but the winning KV-4 and KV-5 designs began prototype production in May 1941, so they were very quickly went from Soviet intelligence report to contests for a new tank, a design of a new tank, to, you know, entering into not production but essentially development in just literally about 2 months. However, in May 1941, the Germans began their invasion, and work on the KV-4 in design phase halted. Now, the KV-4 mainly only existed in plans. However, work on the KV-5 continued in Leningrad. Now, the tank was based loosely on the KV-4 design, but had the unusual step of having multiple designers working on the same tank. So rather than essentially a lead designer and people working to his plans, the KV-5 was designed by 4 designers working independently of each other, each on their own respective parts. So one designer designed the hull of the tank, one designer designed the tracks and suspension of the tank, a third designer designed the turret independently of the others, and the 4th designer designed the gun mantlet and gun. So that probably accounts for how weird looking the tank was to, well, basically looks. Essentially, it looks very unlike anything else in the game or any other Soviet tank. So there were 4 designers as opposed to 1 working on it. So they all worked on their separate parts, they were all put together. And the final design, or at least the final recorded design, or the you know, one that's still in existence, comes from August 1941. So the design was essentially finished by August 1941, and it started to go into production. You know, parts started being built for it. It was designed to come with a 1200 horsepower engine, but due to problems sourcing an engine and the advancing Germans, it was changed to 2 V6 engines instead. But by the time the Germans began the siege of Leningrad in September 1941, just a month after the tank went into prototype production, the prototype design was pretty much completed, but the prototype itself was nowhere near completed. You know, internal components still needed to be decided upon, and the aforementioned siege meant that components couldn't be found or made. So essentially the project was cancelled in favour of other heavy tank designs such as the IS series of tanks. So the prototype was only partially built, the plans were finished, but that's about as far as the KV-5 went. Now in game, the KV-5, it gets special matchmaking, and it's considered a very well armoured tank, but only if you don't know what you're doing. So essentially, the KV-5 is extremely well armoured. You can see that the frontal armour on the flat parts is 184, which can be penned, but you've got a gun mantlet that is very good, very thick. You can get some extreme penetration values when you're trying to hit the gun mantlet. The sides of the turret are slightly sloped, so, you know, again, you're going to need a very powerful gun to go through the sides. So hitting it flat on, it's about 184. The lower glacis, 220, strip at 247, upper glacis 271. So yes, it is extremely well armored depending on where you're hitting it, but most players who know what they're doing, if they come across a KV-5, and they're fairly rare on the battlefield these days, let's be honest, but if you know what you're doing, then they're pretty easy to take out because they're a premium tank that actually has weak spots. The cupola on top of the tank is only 150 if you hit it flat on. It can bounce basically if you hit it at a bad angle. Hit it at the sides, it gets more effective, but hit it flat on, it's only 150. And the machine gun turret on front is only 140. Now that was buffed very briefly a few patches ago, but then the buffs were reverted, but it's still a weak spot. So 140, you can hit the gun itself, it gets up to 150, but essentially you want to hit this flat on. If you hit it at sides, again, because it's rounded, if you hit it at a bad angle, it is possible that this thing will bounce, but you need to hit it at an extreme bad angle. Just hit it flat on, it's about 140. Now this cupola here, this viewport for the driver, again, it looks like a weak spot, but it's definitely not as weak as the Radio Man's cupola or the machine gun port here, or turret. So you get 182 frontally, but again, if you hit it at a bad angle, then you're going to be bouncing. So essentially you're better off not going for this if you can hit this, and then try and hit this flat on. Don't hit it at an angle, because then it gets much more effective. So this is the obvious weak spot on front of the tank. Now that means that a lot of KV-5 players are going to try and hide this. this. They're going to try and side scrape. They're going to try and use a building and basically try and hide this behind a building and side scrape with their gun sticking out from this particular side. But, you know, there's two weak spots. These two major weak spots I've mentioned. You've got the cupola and you've got this machine gun port. They're on either side. You know, you've got one on the left side and one on the right side. So no matter what a KV-5 driver tries to do, they're exposing one or the other weak spot. And the only time you're going to have problems penning this tank is if you can't hit those weak spots, and that's very, very rare. Because if they're side scraping and they're hiding this, they're exposing this. If they're side scraping from the other side, you know, and they're hiding their cupola, then they're exposing their machine gun turret. So essentially, no matter what way the KV-5 driver tries to side scrape, they're always going to expose one or the other of their two major weak spots from the front. Now, having said that, if you've got a player who doesn't know what they're doing and trying to take this tank on frontally or auto-aiming, then the armor is very, very good. Now, if you're not hitting the weak spots and they are side-scraping, you know, successfully, again, players who don't know what they're doing are going to be trying to pen it side on. Look at this. When it's side-scraping, you cannot pen this tank side on. And the reason is, you know, you get up to 400 plus, you know, armor thickness when you're side-scraping, because the side of the tank is extremely well armored. You can see the side of the turret, 180 when you're hitting it flat on. So again, it's going to cause lower tier tanks problems hitting the side of the KV-5 head on or flat. The tracks count as spaced armor, so you've got 170 through the tracks, which cover most of the hull. If you can aim between the tracks, you've still got 150 millimeters of armor you need to get through on the side of the tank. Even the engine deck is 150, even though it looks like a weak spot. So while higher tier, similar tier tanks have no problems going through it, lower tier tanks may still struggle even if they get the side of a KV-5. The rear of the tank is a weak spot. You've only got 90 millimeters at the rear of the tank. There is a strip up to 247, but 90 here and 156 because of the sloping here. But this is where you want to hit a KV-5 if you can get behind it. But as always, it doesn't matter what angle you're shooting from, the cupola is going to be exposed. And if it's hidden, then the machine gun port's going to be exposed. So while this is a well-armored tank, it is only well-armored if you don't know what you're doing. However, the tank gets special matchmaking. It will never see tier 10s, it does see tier 9s, and we're here on El Haloof on Platoon with Beyond D. As I say, in a rare occasion I decide to play this tank. So the one underwhelming thing about this tank is its gun. You only get 167 millimeters of penetration. 300 damage is nice, but it does get a very, very nice rate of fire. So the rate of fire means that the DPM gets upwards of 2,100. So it's got medium tank DPM with decent alpha, but the penetration really, really hurts this tank. Unfortunately, that means you need to carry a lot of premium ammunition, and even the premium ammunition is not great at 219. So again, this is a tank that's going to struggle against heavily armored tier 8s, heavily armored tier 9s, and you end up having to fire quite a lot of premium ammunition. But as I say, the DPM is good, the armor is good if enemy players don't know what you're doing, and really this is a tank you want to play and cross your fingers and hope you get into matchups when basically you're top tier. So we're top tier in this particular game, and there are 5 tier 8s on either side. Everyone else seems to be a tier 7. Everyone else is a tier 7, and we're just going to move up. Now, this is a silly position for a KV-5 because essentially I'm very, very tall, my gun depression isn't great, and there's arty in play. But having said that, this is a tank that's very, very good at ramming. It is very, very heavy. It can get up to 40 kilometers an hour, and you can ram enemy tanks to death. And again, because of the heavy armor, arty may or may not do very much damage to you. So anyway, just checking behind, Beyond D is playing a tank with special matchmaking as well. So that's the reason I popped into the KV-5. We were playing tanks we don't play very often, trying to make use of a ×5 event. And I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. You see, I'm debating because the gun depression is not very good. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to switch locations. So I moved up to that corner, but Beyond D is working that corner. There's 2 RT on the enemy team, and I really, really don't want to expose so much my tank and use its terrible, terrible gun depression. So I've basically messed around at the beginning of this game. I didn't say it was a good game, but it is an ace. You can see me, moving the turret there because I'm frustrated with myself. Swinging from side to side because I've wasted so much time, and this is a position I should have come into in the first place. I was hoping for some early ram damage, and you can see that the penetration on the standard AP definitely not good enough to go through a T-29 that's side scraping. Trying to avoid the SU-101 there, give him room to work, but he's backed away. And we can bounce, and you know, at the moment we're hiding our machine gun port and trying to track the Black Prince, but not doing any damage. So some very heavily armoured hull-down tanks up here, and my gun is really going to struggle. Trying to keep him tracked, and that shot goes high. So the accuracy, not great. The penetration, not great, but the rate of fire is nice. Alright, so are we going to move out again? Yeah, just trying to track this guy, keep him tracked. So that looks as if it was a track shot, critical hit. So this Black Prince is going nowhere, but no one is shooting him. No one is shooting him at all now. Yeah, even a perfect shot on the cupola of T-29, and we can't pen. So, yeah, really struggling, and this is where the KV-5, you know, lets you down. As soon as you come up against tanks with armor, yeah, you're going to struggle to do damage, and that's the first damage I've done this game. We get the side of the Black Prince, and not going to get shots in here. I go for a quick shot on the cupola, but again, it's a bounce, so... Yeah, it's frustrating. It is frustrating when you come across players who know what they're doing. These players know what they're doing. They're staying hull down, they're side scraping, they're decent players. I don't play with XVM anymore, so I have no idea how good these guys are, but they seem to be playing their tanks to their strengths, seem to know what they're doing. I'm wondering if I could sneak one in past the gun mantlet here. Yeah, no, accuracy just isn't there. So, yeah, this is, you can see the rate of fire is quite good. Oh, Black Prince gonna poke? No, he's not. So yeah, I'm top tier heavy, and I'm struggling in this game, and I'm getting more and more frustrated, so it's not a good game, but I really don't want to move forward, and the one shot I have on the Black Prince there, this shot goes high, because I wasn't fully aimed. Yeah, so KV-5, is it worth it? Only if you're a tank collector, really. It can be fun, it can be a little bit silly to play, a little bit like the TOG 2, you can platoon in them, have good games, but you can also have terrible games. So I've fired a lot of shots, I've only done 310 damage, and I haven't bounced very much either. Enemy tanks are staying hull down, they're staying well protected, and as a result, this gun just isn't good enough. I mean, even the Tiger 2, look at his side scraping. These are obviously good players on the enemy team, they know how to play their tanks, they're playing them to their strengths, and I'm having absolutely no opportunity to have any impact on this game whatsoever. So, yeah, look, oh, maybe too much. No, I was on a reload. I loaded premium ammunition because I got frustrated. I loaded premium ammunition just as the Tiger gave me something to shoot at. And now, because I'm firing premium ammunition, of course it doesn't pen. So we track the T-29. Tiger 2's moving out. Well, we can put a shot in, and again, moving back. He's trying to shoot my cupolas, but we're staying on the move, not giving him an easy shot. And we're just trying to keep him tracked. We're hitting his side, but we are actually trying to keep him tracked. And finally, we get a little bit of assistance damage. In the meantime, Beyond D is in trouble. Yeah, A44 has flanked. Enemy heavies are moving up the front. So we get another shot into the T-29. We're finally starting to do damage, but we needed enemy tanks to advance. We needed them to stop playing them to the strengths. Okay, we needed to switch to premium ammunition, and yeah, okay, we picked up our first kill, so, oh dear, yeah, okay, wow, the T-25-2 hit me. It was HE, so he's actually done some damage. That's the first damage I've received. Lower glacis on the Tiger 2. While that guy was side scraping, there was nothing I could do. But he goes lower glacis, exposes his lower glacis, advances, and I get a hit in. Nice shot into the Panther 2. The T-25-2 is still firing HE. We're being capped. Beyond D is still in... Oh, he looks okay. He's got 800 health, but he's being pushed. And as I say, there are 2 RT on the enemy team that are quite dangerous, so... yeah, again, I would have loved to have been a little bit more aggressive in this game, because I am top tier, but it's not working out. Where are all the enemy tanks? Okay, T-28 prototype has flanked Beyond. T-25-2 sits in front of me, but I'm still firing premium ammunition. That's a mistake. That is a mistake I didn't mean to take. He's still firing HE. Oh dear. We're bouncing his AP. He's firing HE. And we get another shot in. So Beyond D is in serious trouble. There are 3 enemy tanks. He's on his own. He's gone down. RT takes him out. I've just been hit by HE again by that T-25-2. I've got a T-28 prototype moving out now. I've done 2.5k damage. Thankfully, our RT took out 2 enemy tanks in quick succession. Took out the SU-152 and the T-28 prototype. But, alright, we're still being capped. And not much to shoot at. The accuracy of this gun let me down. So we're trying to stay RT safe, and we're trying to take out this T-25 too. I have no idea where enemy tanks are, but there is the Panther 2. We're able to track him in place, but unfortunately, yeah, he's got a repair kit. Our enemy RT are still in play. So our RT has taken out their T-25 too, which means I can advance, but 2 RT have fired. With a crew stunned, Panther's having trouble getting away. We can take him out, bounce the Panther 2. And yeah, enemy RT still in play, so there we go. We're up to 3 kills, we're up to almost 3k damage. We're being capped. The score is even. 2 RT on either side, a TD on either side, and myself, but the enemy team are all tier 7, so I can start advancing. Now, I probably played this game far too passively, but as I say, I'm not a perfect player, I'm not a unicum. You could probably, if you're a better player than I am, you could probably see 100 things I could have done better here. But in the end, we've taken out 3 tanks. I'm happy with the damage so far, although it took a long time to get into the game. So someone is capping. I'm going to move forward. I know that enemy RT has reloaded, but we can put a shot in, and we're back with regular ammunition, and we bounce, you know. We're shooting down on a flat upper glacis, but you can see the rate of fire is here. We can reset the cap on the VK3002D. Enemy RT probably is aiming over here, but we can just put another shot in. Even though he's getting shot, he's spotted, he's still sitting there. Oh, he's finally decided to move. And we get one more in, but yet we don't kill him. There's enemy RT. And once again, I'm in a KV-5 and I'm wondering, is he going to drive under the cliff? You know, do I possibly have the opportunity to get a ram kill? Because that's the reason I wanted to play this tank. But yeah, our RT takes him out. So between our 2 RTs, they've taken out 6 enemy tanks, which is quite nice. And it's time to advance. So I know one of the enemy RTs just fired, just landed on the ledge above me. There's the other one. Okay, alright. So we're going to try and move. You can see the acceleration is not amazing. Where's the SU-152? Where are the 2 RTs? We don't need premium ammunition anymore, and we're just going to advance. So 3.7k damage done, 2,000 damage blocked with our armor. Again, trying to keep our weak spots hidden, people shooting areas of the tank that they had no chance of penning, and not being able to hit weak spots. So yeah, I mean, the armor is very good, unless you come up against a player who knows what they're doing. So you've got to stay on the move, try and expose your cupola on top of the turret as little as possible, make it hard for the enemy to hit, try and hide your machine gun port as much as possible. We're able to do it in this game, and yeah, the armor can be very effective regardless. So moving forward, our RT has decided to move forward. So yeah, where's our Waffentrager? Oh, our Borsig is behind me. He's backing me up from behind. Didn't see him on the minimap for a moment. But yeah, okay, you can see that we can get up to 40 kilometers an hour when we're going across the flat ground or going downhill, but as soon as we start going uphill, our speed drops off. And this is when the tank is painful. It's got a pretty poor traverse speed. Its ground resistance values aren't very good. So you start to lose a lot of speed when you build it up and then try and start turning. But SU-152 has been spotted behind us. I'm reversing to try and get within render range, but RT's going to have to look after themselves because this is a tank that just isn't quick enough. Now, with 3.5 minutes or almost 4 minutes left in this game, I figured I would have time to go kill RT, but now I'm a little bit worried because the 152 has just killed our RT, and if he sits up there, and even if we kill the 2 enemy RTs, there's a very good chance that this game is going to end in a draw. But this tank, just not fast enough to relocate, just not fast enough to get back up to the SU-152. So we're advancing, we're going to try and kill the 2 RTs. There's one spotted. Oh, okay, he's gone on the attack. So 3 versus 3, he's on the attack, he's trying to take out the GW Panther. Alright, so we spotted another S55. Can we get around? We don't kill him. We leave him on, how much health? 45. Our GW Panther took out their S51. The other S51 is gone, YOLO. Our GW Panther's in trouble, but looks like the S51 was tracked. We're able to take him out for kill number 4. So GW Panther, very good game on 5 kills. Just 1 tank left on the enemy team. 3 minutes left in this game. So we're going to advance. Hope that the SU-152 has come to the edge of the cliff. Maybe he's trying to kill RT. Maybe he's trying to get more shots in, but you know, I'm still on a lot of hit points, and when you're in a top tier heavy tank and all your hit points are still intact at the end of the game, you gotta wonder, did you do enough? Did you do enough? I know we've bounced 2,000 damage, but If you've got a full health top tier heavy at the end of the game, is it because they were sitting at the back and playing passively when they should have been more aggressive, or were they putting their armor to use? But anyway, SU-152 has moved forward. We get one shot in. Is Artie going to finish him off? Doesn't look it. He's retreating. We could take him out, and there's kill number 5. So GW Panther didn't get his, top gun, but anyway, a kill's a kill. So, a rare game in a tank I rarely play. In fact, I probably haven't played this. It's the very, very original ace tanker in this tank. I remember it was on Siegfried Line. That's about all I remember, and it was one of my first games in the tank, and I don't think I've played it much since. But anyway, KV-5, I thought it was about time we showed this on the channel again, so we picked up an ace, steel wall, high caliber. Was only playing the tank because it was a ×5 event, so we finished top on XP with 1557, 4,508 damage done, 5 kills, so very, very good result, but it was a very, very frustrating game, at least when I was trying to pen enemy heavies that were playing their tanks to their strengths. It wasn't till I advanced, it wasn't till I switched to premium ammunition, I was able to make any major impact on the game. But 34 shots fired, we managed to hit 27, which is actually pretty good considering that the accuracy on this gun isn't very good, but we only managed to pen 18, and most of the shots we penned were actually premium ammunition, so that's the downside of this particular tank. But decent damage, damage blocked by armor. We damaged 8, destroyed 5, did 310 assistance damage, 14 base cap points, and we only earned 61,000 credits because we had to fire some premium ammunition, and premium ammunition is not cheap. So this is the downside. I think the KV-5, you can make money in it, but you're just not going to make as much money in the KV-5 as you would in other tier 8 premium heavies. So as I say, it was one of those rare occasions. There was a ×5 event on, so I decided to play tanks I didn't play very often, and it left us on 12,148 XP. But yeah, played this game some time ago, completely forgot about it. It wasn't until I was making the FE4202 ace tanker that I suddenly remembered, hang on, what other rare tanks have I played in ×5 events? And it brought me back to this game. But anyhow, this is the bonus video for you guys today. The regular ace tanker is coming up on the channel later, but it's Artie, so apologies in advance. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.